Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Almanac Comicopia, your guide through the original and frankly messy DC universe. My name's Troy. I've spent more than a decade constructing and reading a would-be complete chronology of the second era of the DC universe. This era of publishing from 1985 through 2011 is commonly known as the Modern Age. Through my work, it became impossible to ignore a deeply consequential truth, one that has utterly stopped me in my tracks. Despite DC executives' intention for the 1986 maxi series, Crisis on Infinite Earths, the series which birthed the modern age, despite its intention to clear the narrative playing field for DC's talent to begin anew, it turned out the original universe was far too tantalizing and vast a reserve for its talent to ignore. Now for two immediate points of clarification. First, what do I mean by clear the narrative playing field? Well, as we'll see in this almanac, the original DC universe was host to a vast number of parallel universes, giving legitimacy to the Crisis on Infinite Earths title. This parallel universes device was used to great effect by DC. These parallel worlds facilitated the publishing of what-if stories. They allowed for an active exploration of Hugh Everett's brand spanking new many worlds interpretation, and provided robust tools for navigating would-be continuity problems. The Crisis on Infinite Earths story resulted in what Colin Kolscher of the Real Batman Chronology Project coins the, quote, archiving, quote, of the original universe's timelines. For all intents and purposes, we can understand this as a making inactive of versus an actual destruction or erasure. Hence the, quote, clearing of the narrative playing field, quote. In any case, for further clarification on this matter, I implore you to check out the Golden Age homepage of his website, therealbatmanchronologyproject.com. As for the other point of clarification, how exactly did the original universe reach beyond its grave, so to speak, to warp the developing modern age? Well, the way things shook out, the post-crisis timeline, the one which had replaced all others which had existed before, was itself a mishmash, a smorgasbord of the very things it replaced. For example, the golden age of the original universe got compressed and grafted onto this modern age timeline, existing from about 1940 until 1963 or so. At the same time, the Silver Age, the second half of that original universe, filled up the remaining time between then and 1985. To further complicate matters, it's worth considering how the comics creators were writing both before and after the crisis, and furthermore, were far more likely than Gen Pop to be deeply familiar with DC's original history. Thus, these folks mired in an environment where some of that history was being made explicitly canon once again. How could they resist the influence of their prior relationships with the characters? Ultimately, these factors yielded a tremendous amount of, let's call it, spillover from the supposedly archived original universe. Moving on, given the immensity of the original DC publishing period and how so very much of its content was written without any consideration for the future or connections to other titles, I've made the objective of this almanac as follows. Leveraging only the most important, most interesting, and highest quality comics as primary sources to chronicle the events of the original DC universe. Thus, the core principle of the project is accessibility, so I will not be following the events in the order they were published. Rather, the lives of the characters and the intersections therein will be chronicled regardless of publishing date, To this end, the Almanac will try to focus on a single character or related cluster for as long as possible to maintain narrative cohesion. Speaking of which, our first chapter is about establishing the identities of certain core players from the world's first superhero group, the Justice Society, not to be confused with the Justice League. I welcome you to guess which 4 characters this chapter features. I'll even give you 2 hints. First, 2 of the characters are easy peasy guesses. Second, of the 2 remaining characters, only one is actually a Justice Society member. Curiously though, he and the final character know each other, both in and out of their secret identities before and after each of them don those identities. Finally, I'd like to establish some expectations. Each video is attempting to strike a balance between pure analysis and my commentary, of course with some hot takes thrown in for fun. More importantly though, I am sincerely encouraging your discussion on a number of points within each video, since I did not have the distinct pleasure of growing up and going to the comic shop, wherein I would talk comics with the local nerds. This is my best shot at getting to live that life. I hope to see you there, so to speak. Troy.